Hey everybody, Hawk here. It's day 6, and today we are gonna go and have a chat about the Wendigo. Now, I'm gonna preface this with something here. The Wendigo are weird. There's two broad categories. Two broad ways they've been depicted over the years. The first one is based more on the original Native American legend of them, where it is a spirit that either does these horrible things by itself, or it is a spirit that possesses somebody who already had some of these urges and then forces them and then eventually turns them into this horrible monstrosity. This is actually where, that second part is actually where the more modern interpretation or general version of it shows up. It's where the second version is, it's just a monster. It's a person that's turned into one, sans the spirit. The spirit's not involved at all, or generally not mentioned at all. So what is a Wendigo, first and foremost? A Wendigo is a horrible, nasty monster that is created when somebody partakes in cannibalism. Now, it's not you ate a person, you're immediately a Wendigo. That's not how it works. What happens is if you eat a person, in the original one, the Wendigo spirit is now attracted to you. If you do it, basically it's like a cumulative chance of you turning into a Wendigo the more you do it. So if you do it once, you might be okay, though it could still get you. And the more you do it, the more likely it is to get you and then possess you or create, I guess you could say, the spirit. And generally, it's more of the spirit comes in and possesses you and then turns you into the horrible monster that can never be full. And that's the horrible monster running around and eating things. By the way, the whole weird deer skull thing, that's completely new. That's never been in an old description of the monster. Now, the Wendigo exists in D&D. It's in the Fiend Folio, if anyone's curious. It's just a template you slap on stuff, which is pretty much how it should act. Anything can become a Wendigo. In there, it's basically immune to the cold, which is entirely appropriate because they show up in winter typically, because that's when people would starve to death. So they're these horrible, nasty, awful monsters that show up. They're immune to cold. They can regenerate. In that particular case, they go D&D goes with the spirit angle, so they're incorporeal and they're fey. Again, very appropriate. Their bite is horrendous. It causes massive bleeding. It's on crits, if I remember right. They've got a disease. It's bad. They have maddening whispers. It's exactly as bad as it sounds, and this is actually consistent with the legend as well. Basically, the D&D one's fairly appropriate with the legend. Because at that point, when 3.5 came out, or 3.0 at this point, because it was Fiend Folio, came out, they weren't quite so in the public consciousness, so it was still mostly going off of primarily original source material. So Maddening Whispers, it just kind of hounds you, it just slowly drives you crazy while it's stalking you, and it also has this thing where you can only kind of ever see it out of the corner of your eye. Here's the scene from Supernatural in which they see the Wendigo, and it is fantastic. So, as you can see, it's moving around and shaking bushes and stuff, and you can it's like active camo. That's probably a really good way of thinking about it, where you're kind of looking and you can kind of see it out of the corner of your eye. That's how the Wendigo's whole stealth field, I guess, works. It is a spirit, so that's how it works. And in Supernatural's case, it's a physical being. They kind of molded the two together. It's got a lot of the spirit traits of the spirit, but it has a lot of the physical stuff, and it's really nice. Now, in Supernatural, you kill them with fire. You have to burn them to death to kill them. This is also true in D&D. They have regeneration, and the only way you're going to kill them is fire. Not acid, fire. It's very strange. It kind of makes sense, because it's more of The acid would be a physical burning thing, and it is incorporeal, so it doesn't actually have a physical body. Now, we're going to go to Deadlands. Deadlands has Wendigos. Depending on the version of Deadlands you're playing, Wendigos go from being, okay, they're pretty tough and nasty in the Savage Worlds, which is Deadlands Reloaded. So in Deadlands Reloaded, they're kind of nasty. They're not something you want to deal with. They've got all sorts of crap going for them again. But you can gun them down with pretty much anything. Pull out your giant Tesla rifle or whatever it is you have, and then just make them dead. It's not a big problem. Original Deadlands. Okay, Deadlands went with the physical version. It's kind of both, but it turns you into a giant mutated monster, and now it's its own thing because it's the Reckoners, and it's far more horrifying that way. So you're a cannibal. Again, odds increase as the more cannibalistic you become, and eventually you just turn into this thing. There's also subtypes of Wendigos based upon either greed. It was greed, gluttony, and miserly stuff, things like that. They all have their own particular ways of operating, but we're just going to focus on the standard Wendigo here. So in that version of Deadlands, you can't really kill a Wendigo. I mean, I can damage the hell out of them. You can blow them to pieces. You can stick dynamite down them and blow them up. They'll get back up eventually. The only way to kill them was to pour hot tallow down their throat. Now, this is still referenced in the Deadlands Reloaded, where it's a way to instantaneously kill them. I don't want to be that close to a frickin' Wendigo, so I'm just going to mow it down with a Gatling gun if I have a choice. In our other Deadlands, the typical way you would do it is you would get a very big gun, like a cannon or a 10-gauge or whatever massive oversized weapon of your choice, or a rapid-fire weapon of your choice, and then just beat the crap out of them. Just stack as much damage on them as possible, so now they're crippled. Their legs are busted, their arms are shot to hell, and now they're laying on the ground. And then you just walk over there and, get a tallow candle, light the sucker up, and then just pour it down their throat, and they die instantaneously. So nice. Or get a Sasquatch to help you out. Yeah, Sasquatches are awesome, and they hate Wendigos, which makes perfect sense, because they don't want to deal with them any more than we do. So, the physical versions of Wendigos are generally large. Well, actually, they go a whole lot of ways. They're all big. Almost, and this is true, and when the Wendigo ever visually manifests, it's always really large. It's very gangly. It's got long arms that kind of go down. It's got a Slender Man kind of appearance. Generally, they're really gaunt. Sometimes they don't actually have stomachs. Sometimes it's just exposed ribs, and then the food just kind of falls out of them, which is why they're permanently hungry. They've got large jaws, because they eat lots of... They're a manifestation of hunger. That's really what they are. They're single-minded. They want to eat everything they can get their hands on. Always sentient beings. That's what they eat, because they are that. They are what happens when you break that taboo. Now, you'll see more modern versions of them have this crazy elk skull with fangs, and then they'll keep the whole disheveled, nasty appearance, but their legs will turn into the backward-facing animal ones. And they'll have big antlers coming off the tops of their heads. They look creepy as hell, don't get me wrong. I love the new appearance. But it's not really accurate to what it was. Before, they kind of looked more like a necromorph. Like just a four-limbed, a necromorph without the extra limbs. They do the kind of creepy crawl thing. They would otherwise just be really long-limbed. They apparently had really long legs. They can walk really quick, that kind of stuff. Or they were just spiritual and they would just ghost after you after harassing you for hours with that just massive creepy factor. And that's really what the whole point of a Wendigo is. They are, I guess you could say, the distillation of our fear of winter. Because that's when they show up. Because you're going hungry. That's because it's the time of hunger is what winter is. Because you're running out of supplies, especially in January or February, the very end of winter. Before things start warming up, like when winter's at its coldest. So the early part of February, I would say. It's freezing, your food stocks are running low. And that's when everyone gets a little stir crazy. And that's what it represents. That terror and that fear and that just need to eat. which is why it's always hungry, and it's why it's such a maddening predator. It doesn't go after you directly. A Wendigo, properly ran, if you're running this as a GM, or if you would encounter one in a realistic world, is going to harass you. You're going to be off in some desolate, God's forsaken terrain, and it's going to just follow you for a while. Maybe a couple of days. And it's going to start slow. It's not going to get real crazy. It's just, you're walking around, you kind of notice there's not a whole lot of animal noises. And you're like, oh crap, it's like a cougar or something's out here. Get the weapons ready. Then nothing happens, and you're like, all right, we're probably okay. All right, just keep it up. Just not, go back to normal vigilance. Resume walking. You set up camp. Then you wake up in the morning, and one's a little on edge because you feel like you're being watched, but you can't find anything, so you can't just solve the problem with an axe to the face. And then keeps going. Now it's just dead silent. You can't hear anything. It's like the wind just died. I'll just keep following, and then you hear the wind again. Slow. It's that low, slow wind that passes through the trees at that perfect freaking volume to sound creepy as hell. That's just the Wendigo, just moving. They have this weird penchant for being creepy as hell. Really good at it. And then as it keeps going, the wind will just keep going, and it'll never stop. First you're happy because finally there's some freaking noise. Holy crap. But then it doesn't stop. 2, 3 freaking days, the wind is still going. It's just blowing through the trees, and it's always at that stupid pitch. So everyone's all cranky, everyone's annoyed, everyone's pissed. We're all sick of it. Maybe the mage has a headache or something now because they're just sick of listening to that stupid wind. And then you're setting up camp. Someone's sitting on watch, listening to that stupid wind. Bam! They're gone. Wendigo swooped in, took them out, and dragged them off. Because they can hit that fast. Whether it's Deadlands, they'll hit you before you even know you've been hit, or it's D&D because they're freaking incorporeal and they come sneaking out of the ground, just drag you off into the snow, and just claw crap out of you before you know what just hit you. Then your friends wake up and there's nothing but a bloody smear on the snow. Can't find your corpse. Your weapon's laying down there where you dropped it when it nailed you like a truck. And then there's no wind again. It's just dead silent. So now they're freaking out. Now they're heading back. They're like, oh hell no, we're not dealing with this crap. They go look around, try to find you. They can't find anything. You're gone. There's no blood trail or anything because it killed you and ate you in seconds. There's nothing left of you. Maybe it took your gear back to its lair to use maybe as bait. Or maybe when your friends start heading back because they clearly in over their head, they just see your stuff hanging from the trees. There's your breastplate. There's your axe hanging from your back strap, just in a tree. Your hat's over there. Your bracers are over there. Your sabatons are sitting nice and neat on a stump. And there's no wind. It's dead silent again, and all they hear is the crunch of snow. Then they start walking again, trying to get the hell out of there. And then that damn wind starts up again. They ain't getting out. The Wendigo ain't gonna let them get out. Because in a standard adventuring party of about 4, maybe 5 people, it's going to wait until there's only 2 people left, and then it's just going to rush both of them because it doesn't care anymore. You're not a risk. You're not a danger to them. Hell, if it's possible, it's going to take out the mage first. The mage is the one that's got to worry about. Or, let's say this is enchanted with fire or something comparable. It's going to take me out because I have a weapon, or if I have a flamethrower, or you have something that spews fire. They hate fire. Even in Deadlands, they don't like fire because fire makes hot tallow, and they know that's a weakness of theirs. Or the guy with the biggest gun, because you're just going to be a downright inconvenience. So how do you stop a Wendigo? That is the great question. Well, that depends on the particular Wendigo. In Deadlands, as I said, The solution is a really big gun and aim for the legs. Because they do have to walk. They are terrestrial creatures. They do not fly. They are not incorporeal. They are a real physical solid being. Now, frankly, going for the legs with a 10 or 8 gauge is pretty much an excellent solution to a great many things that aren't immune to bullets. And if you have a shoulder that can take it, you may as well load some slugs in there and basically have a small cannon. Honestly, I don't care what the thing is. If it's only a little bit bigger than a person, we're talking basically... Take a gorilla and make it stand upright about as tall as me is how the ones in Deadlands kind of look. And then they have a mouth like from here to here. Their like chest is mouth. It's insanely huge. Yeah, it's 8 gauge to its kneecap. That'll work. Blow its legs off, throw dynamite at it. Just make that sucker fall over. Always carry some tallow with you. Just a couple of tallow candles. Don't need a lot. Throw that sucker in a frying pan when it's done, just dump it right in there and dead. Problem solved. Now, it sounds really easy, but yeah, rendering it to the point where you can do that's pretty hard. So I might, after you blow the legs off, I might, throw an extra slug or so into either of its arms so it can't really grab you until it fixes itself, which may take a while. Now, if you are hunting the spiritual version of these suckers, oh boy, that gets a lot more complicated because, quite frankly, they have a list of powers far longer than I named off. I gave you the ones that are universally applicable. They're immune to cold, they're incorporeal, their bites are extremely devastating, even if it is spiritual. They hit hard, they hit fast. And that whole weather thing I was talking about, that's that maddening whispers crap. That's fairly universal amongst the spirits. They just unnerve the crap out of you by existing. They suck. And they just harass you. So, how do you deal with them? Well, one, knowing that there's a Wendigo after you is half the battle. So if you're in a situation like that, and that kind of stuff's cropping up, you need to realize that that's probably a Wendigo, or it's a mage throwing illusions trying to make you think it's a Wendigo. Either way, you are dealing with a very cunning, very dangerous foe. Now, let's borrow the mage, because mages have their own issues. If it's a Wendigo, it's going to keep trying to do that. Do not have one person on watch. Have 2 people on watch. That's generally a good rule anyway. One guy on watch is not a great plan. And do not, for the love of God, just trust to alarm. Seriously, dispel. Alright, there's so many ways around alarm. Don't just trust to alarm, please. Physical alarms are also helpful, not in this particular instance, but as a general rule of thumb. Now, you get your 2 people in there. Have a nice big fire. They don't like fire. They'll try to avoid it. Sit kind of close to the fire. Just pay attention as best as you're able. Now, actually fighting a Wendigo. It is incorporeal, so you require a magic weapon or a weapon that is similarly capable of dealing with ghosts or other incorporeal things. In D&D, there's a multitude of ways of doing this. In other games, the rules of incorporeality are different, so I'm just going to go with the D&D one. You can either get yourself a True Death Crystal, slap that old girl on a weapon, it's always good. Ghost Touch, just to have a magic weapon and swing at them and hope the 50-50 chance kicks in. I'm not a huge fan of that, but your mage can probably give you other ways of doing this. I think there's a couple of alchemical solutions you can put on your weapon to do this, which means you may want to have an alchemical weapons capsule. Those are always nice and rather cheap. Can never go wrong with just clicking something and then having your weapon covered in fire. My personal favorite, by the way, because I don't want a always flaming weapon. I would like a situationally flaming weapon. Other than that, flaming magical acts of doom is helpful. Your mage throwing fireballs is helpful. When in doubt, throw magic missile at it, because that works. Otherwise, stun the crap out of it. It's not undead, so you can do that. You can stun it, you can block it through various shenaniganery, anything that works on spirits. Which means entangles out, most of the walls of are out, except it's energy-based, so wall of fire is your friend. Make a ring of fire around yourself, stand in the middle of it, and now it has to go through the ground to try to get to you. That's kind of clunky for it, because it doesn't work terribly well, because now it's staring down, and now everyone can be standing around ready to beat the ever-loving crap out of it when it pokes its head out of the frickin' dirt. Or it has to come from above, and that has its own problem of your mage screaming shotgun and then firing a fireball straight in the air. Which leads me to my next point. If your mage says fireball sucks, you slap them, and then you hand them a wand of fireball if they don't feel like learning it. Okay, I am aware it's not the most optimal spell, but it has distinct advantages. Primarily the fact that it has very, very long range for a spell of its type. I know it's not great. I know if you're a sorcerer, you probably don't want to learn it. But seriously, go buy a half-charge wand of fireball, and you'll be fine. Work in a couple scrolls or something. Get your mage access to fire spells. They will be your friend, even if you only hit it after everyone's beat the ever-loving crap out of it, just to finally end that thing. Cold. Don't use cold. Completely useless. Other than that, you gotta keep yourself sane. Somehow. However you do that is up to you. However you deal with long-standing monotony and lots of annoying noises. Do not put crap in your ear to stop the noises. That will make you oblivious to all other sounds, which is bad because maybe the Wendigo has some friends. I doubt the Wendigo has friends because they're not exactly friendly beings. But it may have some buddies it's hanging out with. Maybe it hangs out with some Grell because they both like eating people. So that's an entire thing that you might want to work out with. And seriously, that would totally suck. Wow, I can't believe I just thought of that. Grell hanging out with a Wendigo. Ooh, no. That's a bad time for everybody involved. Unless you're the Grell or the Wendigo. So, yeah. Fire. Constant vigilance, which is really going to get exhausting, just so you're aware. And on top of that, more fire. When in doubt, just kill it with fire. Really. It's an excellent solution. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot to do. Wendigo are a terrifying and horrible monster to deal with. And most things that work on incorporeal things, such as your cleric screaming, "Begone, thought!" don't work because they're not undead or one of the general turnable things. So we're down to various types of typeless magic damage, magic missile, various things that go through those hit chances, and just beating the ever-loving crap out of it with a magic weapon. It's the best you're going to do. And like I said, vigilance. Constant vigilance. Or if you suspect there's a Wendigo around, get the hell out of there. Seriously, you could probably go find an expert who's like, yes, I am the Wendigo hunter. It's a lot like being a vampire hunter, but I specialize in killing Wendigo. And then you go get their buddies and they go friggin' deal with it. Because you, probably not your shebang. So if you can avoid a Wendigo at all costs, if you can avoid a Wendigo, do it. Just freaking do it. It's not worth it. They're horrible, they're a giant pain in the rear end to fight, and they might just drive you insane, which means they kind of win in the end anyway, because you're a freaking screaming wreck. But yeah. There's the Wendigo for you. It's a regenerating, incorporeal, or not, monster that wants to eat you, specifically you, sentient beings. At least I hope you're sentient. And may or may not be hurt by fire, but probably. And when all else fails, melt a couple candles and pour it down its freaking throat, because screw that thing. At the very least, it's gonna hurt. Even if it doesn't kill it, it'll make you feel slightly better before you die. Now, that being said, peace out, everybody. Remember to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, because it's freaking YouTube. And I will see you all later.